rage and reckoning in Michigan. That after a mass shooter leaves a killer's imprint on a large college campus. 3 are dead, 5 more wounded critically after a gunman hunted students in 2 buildings at Michigan State. All of the casualties are students. The doctors trying to keep them alive, exhausted and emotional.
Can't forget we had general surgeons, cardiothoracic surgeons, neurosurgeons. Didn't get a lot of sleep last night, sorry. So many people that just came in.
Throughout the morning, some new details about the ongoing CSI. Calls of shots fired came in a little before 8:30 last night. Police swarmed within minutes, followed by a flood of more panicked calls. Students spent hours locked down without knowing if their friends were dead or alive and without knowing if the shooter might soon walk through their door. Today, police putting a name to the haunting images of a suspect, 43-year-old Anthony McCray. Motive, though, is murky. The shooter, police say, never attended, never taught, and never worked at the school. Let's get straight to CNN's Shimon Prokopez for the latest details. Shimon, what are we learning?
Right, and it appears he is from that area, John, so that's a significant clue for authorities. Perhaps he may have been to the area before, because when you look at the surveillance photo that police released and then some of the information that they've been releasing, how he went from one campus or one building to the other building, there's some indication perhaps that he knew where he was going. The other significant information we're just learning from police there in Michigan State is that they have recovered a note they believe that was written by the shooter, which will hopefully for them shed some light perhaps on what happened here, perhaps describing some grievances that he may have had, some concerns that he may have had. But again, the motive here remains a mystery. Police saying this morning they're not any closer to knowing why he targeted this school. But this note certainly is going to be important for authorities as they work through motive and try to learn more about this gunman. What they have been doing, John, though, is that they've been talking to family members and others who know this gunman, who know the shooter. And it sounds like from their information from the families that certainly this was a troubled individual, a family member describing him as sort of secluded, kind of to himself. There was some trouble after his mother died, according to his father. So it sounds like for authorities, at least, they're learning more about the shooter here. And at some point, maybe, and we may not know ultimately what the motive is here, but certainly, we hope to hear more from authorities. Other thing very important here, obviously, for the victims, that community and what they're going through. All of the victims here, students of the school, the 3 dead and 5 that remain in the hospital. And you could just see the emotion from the doctors, who see all sorts of trauma, see all sorts of issues to sort of give that kind of emotional statement and to talk about it in that way. It just tells you the effect this is having on the community.
Without a doubt. Shimon Prokopez, appreciate the live reporting to kick us off. Let's get some expertise now from 2 law enforcement experts, the former Deputy Director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, and the former Homeland Security official, Juliette Kayyem. Andy McCabe, you listened to Shimon go through what we know so far, and there's a lot we don't know. But here, Anthony Dwayne McCray, in 2019 arrested, charged with a felony for carrying a concealed weapon. He pleaded to a lesser charge, a misdemeanor, and once his probation was up, his probation ended in May 2021. So he had a gun charge on his record. May 2021 probation evolves. Then you hear his sister calling him isolated, his father calling him evil angry after his mother died. Why is the system still unable to connect this piece of information with this piece of information and say this man should not have a gun?
Sure. So it comes down, John, to those regulations that are enshrined in the Brady Act of 1993. That sets the parameters for how background checks are done for gun purchases. Michigan is one of most states that relies on the FBI to conduct those background checks. In this case, on the facts that we know from the reporting about this man, the arrest for felony gun possession, had they convicted him of felony gun possession, might have prevented him from ever legally purchasing a firearm again. It looks like they pled that charge down to a misdemeanor, and a misdemeanor conviction is not enough to prohibit you from buying a firearm. It looks like it was a term in his probation that he was not allowed to have guns while he was on probation. But as you mentioned, he completed that term of probation. So essentially, after that date, He could, as mentally disturbed as he might have been, as angry and rage-filled as he might have been, he could walk into any federally licensed firearms dealer and purchase another gun.
And Juliet, you and Andy and I have had this conversation far too many times, both in your work in government and your work in the private sector. You have worked on hardening these sites, on improving security on places that mass shooters targets. Let's just listen to one of the many survivors here. Listen to the fear.
Right when that first gunshot went off, I booked it to the far corner of the class. I was sitting right next to the door where he came in, literally one of the first two seats he came in. And I thank God my fight or flight response kicked in, because I had booked it to the far side of the class and ducked down, and he came in and shot 3 to 4 times in our classroom.
Often we're having this conversation about elementary schools or high schools. This is a college campus, 50,000 students, 5,700 faculty, 5,200-acre campus. What can, and obviously in this case, what can't you do to make it safer?
Yeah, I mean, you're basically going to have some level of vulnerability. You're not going to be able to make these colleges and universities safe, because you don't want them safe. The kids, they hang out outside. They go to concerts. There's theaters. There's sports. There's classrooms themselves. So what colleges and universities are doing are they're trying to fortify places where people congregate, whether it's a classroom or a dorm situation. But you're always going to have vulnerabilities just given the size of this. And this university obviously has main streets going through it. It has bicycles. It's a mini city. And that's the challenge at this stage. And we will learn whether there were vulnerabilities that could have been closed by the university that may have minimized the harm, but someone determined to get into one of these will likely be able to get into one of these buildings. And that is a challenge. I don't mean to be pessimistic about it, but what that means is then what we have to do is work on what the response capacity can be. And I think you saw a pretty, sort of a near perfect response in terms of the surge of resources. I did think with kids, this is generation lockdown, K through 12, they are now in college and it's following them. I mean, that's what we gave these kids, right? And that's the tragedy of this. These are the kids that grew up post-Columbine.
And to that point, I'll stick with you, Juliet, for a second. If you go through the timeline, first report shot 8:30. A suspect description tweeted at 9:59. Photos put out by the University Police at 11:18. Suspect located and died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound at 11:35. So that they, to your point, generation lockdown, they put out a photograph and they get a tip pretty quick. So it sounds demented to say this. They did the best they could under horrific circumstances?
They did the best. That's right. And so your standards in my world are, can we make it less bad? And I think the university really did. They're pre-planning with the locals and then the state, and then we saw federal assets come in. Seemed perfect. I want to pick up on one important point that we often don't talk about is communication. What I was monitoring it in real time. They are doing everything you would want to do, which is get to the students, tell them what to do, get to the faculty, and then colleges and universities, these are kids still, and get to the parents and telling the parents, do not come to campus because it's a danger zone, so to speak. All of that is so important in that timeline that we saw, right? How short it was because everyone knew what to do.
So Andy McCabe, as you're trying now to answer the question why, to get to a motive, the police on campus say no connection, didn't go to school there, didn't teach there, didn't work there, but did, as Shimon noted, have a note in his pocket apparently threatening some schools in New Jersey. How do you try to piece together why this gunman decided to go to this campus late in the evening and open fire?
John, we do this investigation really only for that reason. There's no one to charge here. He's dead. He's not going to jail. But people have a desperate need to know why this place, why these victims, why this night. And so what the investigators will do is they'll go back, they'll execute search warrants at his residence, maybe in his vehicles. They'll look in all of his electronics devices. They'll course through if he's ever used social media, see what sorts of things he's posted or said or liked. They'll look at all of his writings. They'll try to interview family members and friends and work associates, all to answer that question of why. Maybe we'll get an answer, maybe we won't. The other question we should be asking is how? How does this happen? How does it happen 60 or so times this year alone? And the answer is because we have 120 guns in this country for every 100 people. We have more than double the number of the second most gun-soaked country on earth, which is Yemen, not someplace I think we should be comparing ourselves to. Every lawful gun owner in this country, of which I am one, I carried a gun every day for 21 years on the job. I own a firearm. Every lawful gun owner should be standing up and saying, enough is enough. We need actually effective laws, actually effective background checks, and we've got to do something about this tidal wave of violence, or we just keep sending our kids to school and hoping to come home unshot.